Hello, everyone, and good morning. I hope that you are doing well. Very nice opportunity today. Um, as we move forward this weekend, we have to change our clocks. We spring forward, and so another indication that spring is coming. And even now, I hear the birds chirping. So it's a very nice. Why do we practice meditation? Because meditation is the spirit of kanjin, the spirit of our uh, interrelated understanding, our integration of who we are, our mind, everything into our daily lives. And Kanjin is more than just seeing properly, it's a perspective, overall perspective that changes. And with that, we are able to acclimate to our lives and to the reality as such. And in reality, sometimes the reality is not as enjoyable as what we may think, and the conflict comes between ourselves and reality. So therefore, Dhyana allows us to have the correct mindfulness, correct awareness through kanjin and samadhi to be able to deal with our daily life. Okay, so therefore, let us begin some stretching. Okay, let's go stretch to the side, to our shoulders. And it backwards. Shoulder blades rounding together. And now let us do our heads. So if we do forward and backwards, out towards vagal. Other angle. Okay, round. Other way. Let's sit up straight with 3 breaths. Let us purify our body. Breathing in, hold, exhale. Breathe in, hold, exhale. Last round, hold, exhale. Let's settle into our body for a moment. Close our eyes before we take our posture and just take a mindfulness check, a survey, scanning from your head to your breathing to your body. Without judgment, just simply observing. And let us take our posture. Hokai join, hands together, left on top of the right, thumbs touching, close to our body. Our head, chin tucking in, teeth closed, tongue, roof of our mouth, ears over our shoulders. Gently close your eyes, and now we're going to begin breathing through our nose, exhaling Nam-myoho Renge Kyo to stop, and then inhaling through our nose with the air to observe. It's important to remember to hold on to this concentration as much as possible, and then also, as we see in our practice, to keep coming back to it. That is a theme that we've talked about many times, is coming back to the breath, coming back to the Daimoku. Okay, this is true utilization of the practice. So let us sit with the sound of the bell. Let us enter into concentration. Release your attention. Again, just sitting for a moment, scanning your body, your mind, your breathing, your body, observing, no judgment. Let us breathe in, hold, breathe out. Good. Start to move your your fingers, your toes, back to your body. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. As always, it's nice to be with you. Today, we're going to go into a little more in depth concerning each of the obstructions to practice. Okay. So, again, the 5 hindrances are worldly desire, aversion, laziness, and lethargy, agitation due to remorse and worry, and doubt. So today, even though we have spoken on, let us go a little more deeply into worldly desire. Worldly desire, sometimes called sensual desire, is when we pursue delight and cling to the pleasures. That means we're simply looking to the pleasures and clinging to material existence. This also means desiring to avoid their opposites. The opposite of material existence, or holding or keeping pleasures, is of course pain and loss. The desires that include gaining material objects and preventing their loss, having pleasurable experiences and avoiding pain, achieving fame, power, influence while avoiding infamy and impotence, and attaining the love and admiration of others while avoiding hatred and blame. In Buddhism, these are sometimes referred as the 8 worldly dharmas. Here is an easy formula to help you remember. Gain, loss, the opposite, right? Pleasure, pain. Fame, obscurity. And praise and blame. That's the way you can remember the 8 worldly dharmas and their opposites. Very important. This kind of desire is so fundamental a part of our biological programming that you may never have asked yourself why it is there, why it exists, why we have it, or questioned even the effects it has when whether it has as whether you'd be better off with or without it. Worldly desire evolved simply because in the natural world we have to strive for resources. We strive to survive and reproduce, and that takes effort and motivation. We're programmed from birth to take pleasure and desire and pursue the very things and experiences that help us stay healthy, get a mate, and provide for our offspring. And we're social animals, so we take pleasure in the care, acceptance, status, and power because they're important to our survival and reproduction as well. The intimate predisposition to desire whatever brings pleasure has made humans very successful. So it's very essential to acknowledge that aspect. Again, most people have this dualistic concept of good, bad. But in Buddhism, it's important to, again, see things rationally, to understand the reasons for such behaviors, okay? And then also to see them within the proper context, not to say that this is a bad behavior and I'd like to remove it. That's how most people approach Buddhism, unfortunately, at the beginning. Yet when it comes to the effects of desire in your life, consider that the world has changed since the desires first evolved, okay? We are no longer in our primitive mindset. Well, we are in a primitive mindset, but a lot of the primitive reactions that we have, and this is always talked about in psychology, is that the idea that we are fight or flight, and these particular behaviors, how they actually are, how they actually meld with the modern times or modern society. And sometimes, because of our instinctual nature, it gets muddled. And sometimes we misinterpret, misunderstand due to these relying simply on these behaviors or desires, right, or instincts. Consider that the world has changed since the desires first evolved. Sex, food, especially high calorie, fatty, sugary, and sultry foods, and labor saving devices are far more available today. Unrestrained desire leads not only to overconsumption and health and relationship difficulties, but many other issues that get revealed through meditation as well. It is said meditation doesn't involve repressing world desires. It gives us a direct experiential insight into the many ways that desire leads to pain and anxiety. The insight frees us from being ruled by desire so that we can cultivate its opposite instead, not grasping and equanimity. Our new information will come from a place of generosity, loving kindness, and shared joy. As we were speaking of, each day that I went through these particular hindrances, I shared with you the remedy. But it wasn't ignoring or throwing out the actual instinctual desire. It was understanding, and through our practice and study and awareness and insight, we were able to calm our mind and change that behavior into a different kind of dharma. It's very fascinating because Buddhism, people complicate it, but actually very simple, that we are changing, for instance, a samskara, which is a memory, something even at this moment, this is imprinting like a photographic memory onto my, uh, you would say, your nature, your mind. So therefore, when I have another similar situation, that photographic memory is brought back up. Now, in many times, people will think, oh, that is a bad thing, I should throw it out, once they recognize perhaps the damage or suffering that comes from it. But in reality, to be able to change that moment, to change that perception, right, we are able to change our action, change our karma, our reaction, even our mindset. This is an enormous, important change that we experience in Buddhism, that we suddenly understand in proper perspective what is positively positive to our life, and those that are, as they call, uh, limiting. Okay? They talk about this all the time in pastoral care, in that they have the life affirming concepts, right, through spiritual practices and hopefully spiritual doctrine, and then you have the life limiting ideas that we should always be aware of, based on, for instance, our past, as many people might say, even our how do you say, our abilities, our understanding, or lack thereof, and even, as they say, privilege now. Very fascinating. Worldly desire is so deeply embedded in us that you may have trouble imagining how you could live without it. If I'm not looking to, at any cost become successful, will I be successful? However, as intelligent beings, we no longer need to be driven by compulsive desire. Okay, we have this ability now in the society. Hence, we build society, that we can use our rational thought, our rational understanding, our rational insight, in order to take care of ourselves. So we don't need to simply rely on instinctive desire or compulsive desire, as stated. We can act effectively from a foundation of reason and equanimity. Furthermore, generosity, loving kindness, and sympathetic joy will only serve to enhance the survival of social beings like ourselves. Nor does eliminating desire lessen our experience of pleasure and happiness. Free from craving and filled with love, we become more fully present and positive experiences of every kind. They did a study that said now we have so many choices, whereas before people may at most had two choices, right? Maybe three if they were very well off. And that the more choices, even if we are to pick the best thing, the most efficient thing that we like, the more efficient thing that we want, we desire, we still don't have 100% satisfaction because we have all of those options. That in our mind, in our nature, it says perhaps one of the other options were better. And so they said the level of satisfaction with more options goes down. It's interesting because that's what our economy is based on, right? Availability of more products and options. Practices that we make us aware of desire and give us many opportunities to practice. How do you say? Not extinguishing, but reducing it. Unification of mind is the meditation factor that specifically opposes and is opposed by the hindrance of world desire. This would be the medicine, okay? As the mind becomes unified, worldly desire weakens and eventually disappears, not only during meditation, but from daily life as well. We can experience this firsthand, this transformation. I have. When I sit in meditation, I feel the lessening of my desire. I feel the lessening of those particular aspects, that they are not, how do you say, my first, how do you say, my interaction with the world is not simply based on instincts, right? There's a kind of equanimity based on loving kindness, as the Buddha taught. And this is what the Buddha really wanted us to do. Uh, you do not grow stoic, indifferent to pleasure, or lose your motivation, but rather you are filled with joy, calm, and contentment. A unified and blissful mind, in other words, has no reason to chase worldly desire. You will live more dynamic life, not constrained by craving, and you will be open to more possibilities. When they say craving, when we do something, if we crave it, we almost become maddened, right? If anyone's ever experienced addiction, and even as simple as not being able to restrain yourself from certain foods that you use for coping or other things that people use. Sometimes it's as if your mind turns off and you go into this kind of movement that takes you there, right? That's when people tell addicts you can control yourself. Well, a lot of times they're not in that state, that they can't actually. The addiction has them very profoundly and powerfully. It's only when we generate this mindfulness and get back into this concept of equanimity that we realize we cannot change the actions, the occurring actions in the world, right? Activating events. We cannot control everything around us to be beautiful and happy, all right? Like Siddhartha in the palace. But actually, when we step outside and see what the reality of the world is, such as Siddhartha did with the suffering of birth, sickness, old age, disease, death, we can come to an understanding that now we can really realize or come to terms with our existence. And that is what the Buddha intended, because everything that goes on is your worldly view. We have something to say about that. And through the practice of upholding the Daimoku, upholding the Lotus Sutra, the virtuous teaching, we establish ourselves in that. And as we go through the Buddhist practices and reaffirm that each day, each moment, holding with us the Odaimoku Dhammamyo Renge Kyo, we are able to ground ourselves, to perhaps see, and as we grow, be able to neutralize these poisons in our mind. And in doing so, I believe that it doesn't matter the ups or downs of life, but this idea of equanimity is still within oneself. That means to see things within true reason or true awareness. So thank you very much, everyone. We went over time today, but I appreciate having this morning talk with you. I hope all of you will practice and strive to be in this equanimity and be able to reduce these hindrances in your practice and study. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo.